welcome back. It's just gone 7:39. Time to go through the papers now with the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, who's got a highlighter and avidly highlighting away.
Same colour as your
about your jacket. And we've also got the former special advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redrop, this morning with us to speculate about what on earth is going on behind the doors of Downing Street today. First of all, before we get into the papers, because, I mean, they were out of date by 6:30 this morning, some reaction from both of you to that breaking news that the Chancellor will be bringing forward many of his medium-term fiscal plan announcements to this morning. Oscar, does this smack of desperation?
I don't actually necessarily... I mean, desperation in terms of potentially the Prime Minister's future, but in terms of just absolutely analysing it in a decision on its own terms, I think it's really smart. I think it's exactly why Jeremy Hunt has been made Chancellor, because it was glaringly obvious the issues the markets had with that mini-budget. Feels like 100 years ago, but 2 weeks ago, and he's absolutely identified those problems, and he's sat around with advisors at Chequers with the Prime Minister and gone, look, if we know what the problem is, let's just get on and solve it. And it's really, really interesting. And I thought Tom Harwood's report that you did at the top of the hour was really interesting and spot on. We are now seeing a complete, I mean, I know U-turn gets thrown around the whole time, but it's kind of more than that. It's
collapse.
It's complete collapse, and it's really interesting because we, and Jeremy Hunt was obviously part of that government, but we're looking at more austerity policy. Every single department will be asked to absolutely scrimp and save on every single penny and pound. And actually what that will result, there'll be more political fallout as a result of that. Defence spending, for example. Do you think Ben Wallace is going to be happy with being told that?
Well, exactly.
So it's...
And the context of austerity was totally different in terms of the cost to ordinary people's lives. I mean, we already know that the NHS is on its knees.
Yeah.
We know that inflation is up. We know that the cost of living crisis is spiralling. That, in the context of governmental cuts which will affect services, is scary, isn't it, Dawn? And just your reaction then to what you think this signal is this morning. Is this wise, as Oscar suggests, that this will, be preempting any panic in the markets at 8 o'clock? Or is this, as Labour have been saying this morning, evidence of panic?
I think it's 6 of one, half dozen other. I think it will stabilise the markets. I think it might do anything at the moment but stabilise the markets, to be honest with you. But I do also think there is a hint of panic here as well, and they do realise that they do have to do something. But Hunt has just come in and reversed pretty much everything Truss and Kwarteng did. But the manifesto he is now saying he wants to bring in as far as tax is concerned is the polar opposite of what the Conservative Party were actually elected in on in 2019. So they are reversing almost all their original... I appreciate a lot has changed with the pandemic and Ukraine, etc., but they're actually reversing almost the 13 key policies that they were elected on in that landslide victory back in 2019.
Well, manifestos are not a promise, though, are they? They are subject to change based on circumstances.
I know terms and conditions apply, and I know, but I mean, it's a general election. I mean, another 2 months of chaos.
Which is interesting because the Sun, Oscar, they've got the supporters out saying, if you sack the Prime Minister, you're going to be wiped out at a general election.
Yeah, and I think that would be the current state of play, that's for sure. I mean, and I'm sure that's what Number 10 and the Prime Minister will be briefing to MPs and Cabinet Ministers, saying, if you get rid of me, ultimately, that means a general election's coming down the track, and we all know what will happen then.
But does sorry, Oscar, you understand it more than I do. Does it technically mean they have to have a general election?
No, they don't. But the political pressure I think would be exactly right, Stephen. Exactly right. I do think what we're seeing with this melodrama at the moment, just quickly going back to that, the Conservative Party is having a bit of an identity crisis, right?
A bit. Someone was describing it as a death cult over the weekend. The stats: 4 Prime Ministers in 6 years, 4 Chancellors in 4 months.
Yeah, it does not know who it's speaking to. It doesn't know who it's speaking for, and it doesn't know where it needs to go. And I know everyone watching TV will be going, oh, we used to work for him, so of course he's saying this. But whatever you think of Boris Johnson, he had the personality, and he gave the party and the government a brand and a direction. And I do think that is...
The trouble is, you do wonder about common sense in all this. I mean, in The Sun, Matt Hancock is saying, to stay in position, Liz Truss needs to, reshuffle the cabinet.
Why am I Hancock saying that?
Well, but if there was a major cabinet reshuffle now, that's as destabilising, actually, as anything else, isn't it?
Completely. And that's why I think the parliamentary party and those poor MPs, I know the narrative is often, they're out for blood and they're conniving and the death cult, but what ultimately they are reflecting is their constituents, the people watching TV now who sat at home who are absolutely fuming about what is going on. And that's all those MPs when they go down to Westminster and are conspiring, and that's all they're reflecting, because their email inboxes are just full, quite rightly, very angry people.
Well, they're full of people saying, and you know this as well as I do, saying, bring back Boris. That's what the email inboxes... that's what the inboxes are saying, even to MPs who were quite glad to see him go.
Well, I suspect they probably are. I mean, and there is nothing to stop Boris coming back. I mean, it's possible, isn't it, Oscar? I mean, it's not impossible for that to happen. And it's like, and Nadine Dorries, the 33 points down, and she was Boris's biggest backer, 33 points down in the polls at the moment, the Conservative Party. Nadine Dorries saying, we need a general election. That's like literally a turkey voting for Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what's the alternative, Oscar? I mean, you're saying that if they sack the Prime Minister, they make way for an election wipeout, but would we just leave a zombie Prime Minister in power with Jeremy Hunt calling the shots for the next 2 years?
I mean, maybe the slightly unfashionable thing to say at the moment is, I think the ideal, I don't know if it's possible, the ideal scenario is that Jeremy Hunt comes in, does really, I think as he's doing so far, a really proactive, calming job, and actually the Prime Minister is allowed a bit of time to see if she can recover, both politically within the party and in terms of the wider public. And there's a huge job for her to do that. But ideally, that would be the scenario that we want. But I'm not saying that's possible or realistic.
But let's be possible and realistic from both of you then. Can she last till the end of the week? Can she last until the statement on the 31st? Can she last till Christmas? Dawn?
I personally don't. Look, I want stability. I want this infighting to stop. I want the government, whoever is leading it, to concentrate on what everybody out there watching and listening to us now is going through, and we're all panicking while they're fighting. So I don't see how she can last this one out. And on a personal level, I was deeply worried by her behaviour at that horrendous press conference on Friday.
That was extraordinary, I have to say. Just the way she looked into call it the audience, the assaulted journalist looking for a friendly face and sort of actually verbally... I mean, Boris would never have commanded that kind of lack of authority.
I know, but Boris... it's really interesting, actually, what Boris... we had to do quite a few of those press conferences, if you think back to Sue Gray, for example. And what Boris did, he stood there for an hour. Yeah. He answered every single question from every single journalist, giving his pound of flesh, if you will, showing that contrition and humility. That's not just important for the viewers and the media and journalists, but it's also important for MPs to see, so they can see their Prime Ministers willing to look people in the eye and take things on the chin. And there was an opportunity missed, of course.
And it's having the X factor, isn't it? To quote a popular show, you've got to have that something that makes you a leader.
You have to. I mean, it's of course it's not all about personality. Well, you do suspect that a lot of people did vote for the Conservatives in 2019 because of Boris Johnson, rather than the policies. It's not about that. But we're sort of like saying it's like the X Factor, it's like a reality TV show from hell.
Yeah.
These are our lives that are at stake.
Yeah. Well, look, interesting hearing this rare rebuke coming in from Washington.
Oh gosh.
President Biden, who's managed to put his marbles in for a few minutes, has come out and sorry, but he's come out and said that Truss's plan was a mistake, and you just wonder, has this pushed the special relationship further apart?
This is absolutely unheard of. I can't remember the last time an American president openly criticised not just the policy, but also...
the leader,
The leader.
The nearest thing we got was Obama, wasn't he, saying, about Brexit, the Brexit...
Yeah, but that wasn't as cut and dried as this. I mean, Liz Truss and Biden meet next month, if she's still around, at the United Nations General Assembly, and that's going to be an interesting meeting. The picture to go with it is hilarious. He's in an ice cream shop in Oregon, and he's asked what he thinks about the UK's economy. And, and he's like saying helping the wealthy was a mistake, and I'm not the only one that thinks that. And it's like, and he's standing there eating an ice cream, and as you say, he's put his marbles back in just for long enough to make this comment. And I just say, you know, I don't want to be mean. Obviously, he's elderly, and you know, and he's not, I don't think, in good health. But I mean, when Biden is coming out and criticising what's going on in this country, you do have to ask yourself what is happening and what we can do to stop it, more importantly.
It's just that general feeling of being in free fall, which I think is what is. I mean, I find it slightly panicky.
Yes.
I do. It's just that free fall situation.
That's a really interesting point, and it's actually quite a serious point, isn't it? You know, politics can seem like a bit of a game, a bit of a soap opera that I think sometimes we kind of love to hate a little bit, and, you know, we have a little natter. But what you've just said there, Stephen, is so probably reflective of what a lot of people are feeling.
I've got friends who want to move abroad. They just want some stability somewhere else.
I've got a friend who has moved to Amsterdam.
Oh, right.
To get away from it. And you know what? I think you've actually nailed it there, Stephen, because I've been around working on newspapers for a long, long time now, 35 years, and I can never remember a time that I've been personally and professionally that worried about the politics in this country and where we're going. And, you know, normally you can think, right, OK, well, if A, B and C happens, there's a way out of it. I can't see what it
Hams says it all. Can we talk about chocolate to end? We've been talking about it all morning.
Yes.
You've been partial. I've fed you many a chocolate bar over the years.
Yeah, never going hypo, yes.
Right, well, you can't eat chocolate yet, evidently. You've got 3 hours to go. The best time of day to eat chocolate, by the way, is 11 a.m. Well, between 9 and 11 to be specific.
Okay.
And you're meant to treat it rather like, this is a survey by a chocolate company, by the way, Galaxy. And you're meant to treat chocolate like fine wine.
How are you?
So you store it.
What, sip it slowly rather than just ram it straight in.
Binging.
I failed on that one.
You don't put it in the fridge, and you treat it. It's about 18 degrees. You're meant to store it at, and you're not meant to chew it. You're meant to savour it, like a fine wine.
Well, it is nice. Have you ever sucked a cube of chocolate?
Wow.
You just put it in your mouth and you just let it melt in your mouth.
Actually, I thought that was very weird, but actually, Maltesers, it's quite fun just to let it...
Yeah. If you do put it in and just let it dissolve in your mouth, it's really, really lovely.
Have you ever played that game of trying to make a Malteser float out of your mouth?
There's lots to be fun to be able to...
Or biting the ends off a Twix and then using it as a straw to suck your tea through.
That's bizarre.
No.
Delicious.
That's just you, Isabel.
No,
That's not proper chocolate. They're like biscuits with chocolate on it.
Yeah. I'm quite addicted to chocolate. I know I think you said about eating it every day. Like,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I eat it every day.
Do you?
How much, though, every day?
I went through a really bad habit. You know the Milky Bars, but the big ones. I would just have one of those every day.
Wow.
700
You'd never guess. You don't look like a piggy.
Oh, thank you. I think that's a compliment.
Piggy.
Sounds like you are, but
like
you
a piggy.
don't look like one.
That's great.
Oh, there you go. Piggy Red Drop. And Dawn Neeson, thank you very much indeed. I mean, honestly, she's so brutal.
I know. Ego just shattered.
Oh, no, you're the one calling him that. Right, Dawn, Oscar, we appreciate you. We'll see you in the 8.
Right.